I'm Mr. Lonely. I have nobody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 634 with a review of Kajillionaire. I'm Christopher Schnese.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you. Once again, this is this time, Stephen, did you watch this on iTunes?
I did, yeah. I think that was the only option this time because it was one of them $20 rentals.
Yeah. Good thing everything else we reviewed this weekend, except for, I guess, Shithouse was free for us.
Yep.
So if you divide the total cost of everything, we're still looking good.
Yeah, if you divide by 5, we're doing good. But then again, would I have normally seen 5 movies in a weekend? Yes, actually, yeah, I would have. If 5 good movies came out, I would have done it in a normal weekend too.
I also watched a film on Shudder, so I rounded to an even 6. Yeah.
I almost watched a documentary, but instead I watched many episodes of Gossip Girl with Joanna. No regrets.
But I will say, even without doing the fuzzy math and dividing by 5, I think it's safe to say that if we switch the prices of this and Shithouse, we would be totally happy paying $20 to see Shithouse, because that film is fantastic. And if you want to know more about that, we have a review of Shithouse in the feeds right before this episode. But no, we spent $20 in Kajillionaire. Oh, that's how they're getting to be Kajillionaires.
We're the Kajillionaires.
Well, no, they're the Kajillionaires because they charge everybody $20 to watch this movie.
It's a hustle.
It all makes sense now. How did I not see it until now? But yeah, we're talking about Kajillionaire. So we're going to just get right into it. How does that sound, Stephen?
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to play a trailer for Kajillionaire, and then we're going to come back and give you a review.
After this person. And clear.
Now. There's a camera there, and there. Cash. Nope, any order.
This is not a cheap tie. Most people want to be Kajillionaires. That's the dream. That's how they get you hooked. Hooked on sugar, hooked on caffeine. Ha ha ha, cry, cry, cry. Me, I prefer to just skim.
So do I.
February, March, April?
We may have to pay in installments.
Rent is an installment. It's a monthly installment.
They are real characters, super unique. But you vouch for them, right?
She learned to forge before she learned to write. No, actually, that's how she did learn to write.
My favorite movies are the Ocean 11 movies.
This is exactly the kind of thing that I've been wanting.
So what do your parents do, hon?
Hun, you've never called me that. Bet you could if it was a job, though, right?
You're addicted to them.
They're my parents.
In what sense?
We split everything 3 ways. We have since I was little. I don't want to do it that way this time.
Don't.
You want us to be false, fakey people. We don't make pancakes or wrap up little birthday presents or call you sweetheart or baby or
Do a little dance.
I always thought it was insulting to treat you like a child. And I thought we agreed on that.
We can only ever be how we are.
This is the way the big one starts. If you're lucky, you'll get crushed. And then you just die right then and there.
I'm Mr. Lonely.
All right, so that was the trailer for Kajillionaire. It is about this family of hustlers, grifters, whatever you want to call them, and they, it's 2 parents and a daughter, and they split everything 3 ways, and they kind of just go about their days doing little scams or little things to try to win money to just kind of survive, but they seem to enjoy it maybe, and it's really the story of what happens when a new person is encountered by the family and sort of roped into what they're doing, and how that affects all the members of this little triad that's going on. So, Stephen Miller, what did you think of Kajillionaire?
So I told you a little bit before we started recording that I watched half of this movie last night and then the other half in the morning. And boy, what two different movies those are. This is a movie that it's a Miranda July thing, so there's going to be weirdness. I don't know how familiar you are with her. I've only seen You, Me, and Everyone We Know, but I've also read a book of short stories by her called No One Belongs Here More Than You. And her whole aesthetic is kind of like take personal anxieties or like discomforts about how people interact with each other and kind of take away all the normal raw materials of like the way humans interact and replace it with other things that are off somehow, like construct a new kind of fake world and then watch how people would still like fail to connect with each other. That's kind of her shtick in a nutshell. So I knew this was going to be weird, right? She also was in Madeline's Madeline, which shouldn't be surprising. Like another thing in that wheelhouse.
That I was looking up stuff about this movie after the fact, and I saw that she was in that movie, and I was like, "Fucking Steven tricked me."
So I knew this was going to be quirky, right? I think quirky is the right way to describe her sensibilities. And for the first 45, 50 minutes of this movie, I would say that is all it is. It is just quirkiness. Like we're meeting this, shoplifters type family who are much stranger than the characters in Shoplifters, and like watching all these strange jobs that they perform, and everyone is quirky and bizarre here, right? Evan Rachel Wood is obviously as Old Dolio. She like is talking in this kind of strange voice, and she moves in sudden her movements, and there's an extended scene where she's getting a massage, and like the idea of human contact is just like insane to her. Her parents, Richard Jenkins and Debra Winger, are both also very stuck in their ways and odd, and they behave very oddly, and like for a while we are just watching them do what they do, and it was not adding up too much of anything for me. I was kind of like, okay, this movie is just her being full on wacky, and then there's a moment where the movie pivots into being first there's a scene involving a character in his bedroom, and that is the first time I feel like real pathos starts to come into this movie about like how do these people view the rest of the world, and what is the meaning of living. We've set up this bizarre anti-way of living. Now let's bring in real world things and see how like they would interpret them. And then it becomes about what the trailer makes it clear it's about, but I had no idea, which was Evan Rachel Wood's relationship with her parents. And from then on, like I was pretty sold on this movie. I feel like it does a lot of things very well. There is a scene involving the big one that I think is great, and is just such a perfect kind of like reprieve from the rest of the movie. It becomes a lot about kind of a, not fish out of water, but someone learning the ropes from someone else about how to live, little shades, dare I say, of Swiss Army Man in those parts of like...
I didn't think of it while I was watching the film, but as soon as you made that statement just now, I was like, Swiss Army Man?
Yep. Yeah, like let someone else explain to you what living is like and what is good, and, what does it feel like to be loved and to be valued by other people. And like all that worked really well for me. I think Gina Rodriguez is a great addition to the movie. Like when she comes in, it is just enough to offset the oddity in a way that makes it be more palatable. Makes it be like, okay, now I have an outsider perspective, so I can kind of like, I know how to take the movie a little bit more. And in the end, what it left me with is like, I liked where it landed. I liked a lot of the stuff it was exploring. I still felt like I didn't totally get a lot of what the movie was doing, and a lot of the quirkiness felt like it was just there to be quirky rather than to actually make the film better or make a point. So I don't know, I found it actually pretty moving by the end. Like I was into a lot of stuff, but I also can't justify a lot of the movie either. There's just like, I think it could have done what it wants to do without leaning into the twee quirkiness so hard, and that, yeah, I don't know. But I also liked it. I liked the last maybe 45 minutes quite a bit in this movie. So I don't know where that leaves me. I don't know if it could have built up to it without all of the like initial stuff at the beginning guiding me there.
Yeah. So for some background context, generally I just watch the shit out of like all trailers because I enjoy watching trailers and I like to know what I'm getting into when I watch a film. I bailed out of the first 15 minutes of this trailer. I just like when I first. Sorry, 15 seconds. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, I don't know what voice she's doing. I don't know that any of this is going to be funny for me. And I kind of just was like, I just written this film off completely. And then you were like, oh, we're going to review this, right? And I was like, sure. Why not? Yep. I'll fill my role of hating on some movie that I should probably be nicer to. But I was like, I'll be optimistic and I'll get over. I already hate the voice she's doing, but let's just pretend like it's not going to bother me. And I think for the first most of this film, like I was not vibing on it, right? Like I enjoyed some of the awkwardness on the plane when Gina Rodriguez first shows up. Like that was fun, but it was just like a completely different movie. And we were just watching that and I was like, okay, well, at least I can enjoy this scene, like her personality versus the personality of the family. And like the dad just wanting to tell his story, even though obviously they shouldn't be telling their story. Like there was something fun to that, but the film as a whole was not really working for me. That all changed. There's a scene where everybody is forced to play house. So even before the bedroom scene you were talking about, and as soon as that scene started, it like, I was moved. Like I was like, oh, okay, this is the film. This is the real movie. All that other shit was like just trying to like put me off kilter so that I can be like emotionally wrecked by what is actually happening here. And the way I describe this film is this is exactly the opposite of the Florida Project. The Florida Project is about a mother who is just barely keeping her shit together by doing a bunch of stuff to try to survive. And she spends all her time shielding her daughter from the reality of how they are able to live as people. Okay. Like, so she does things, she'll take her in to eat at the hotel restaurant for a hotel she's not staying at. She'll try to like do a bunch of things to like earn money that may be questionable for a mother to do while her child's in the bath. And it's all about, we can see that this woman loves her daughter immensely and is just doing the best that she can and is willing to do anything to provide an okay life for the daughter. And it's this like beautiful, tragic story. And this film is, what if we just cut the daughter in to all this stuff and treated her as an equal partner adult and forwent all of the motherly, fatherly love for her and just let her be an adult with us and treated everything as a job? And how would that affect a person's emotional development? And how would that allow her to function in society if she was ever forced to do that on her own or willingly wanted to do that on her own? And I think that movie, which is kind of in here, is beautiful and once again tragic and moving and really made me like, it like that aspect won me over. And I think like that, it's weird though, because it's like that scene, as weird as that scene is just amazing. And then I think the ending scene of this film is also brilliant, and like what that means with like what the characters have learned moments before that and stuff. Like I loved all of that. I think I didn't like the big one scene. That's,
oh, really?
I think part of it is because I lived through the Northridge earthquake and like, this is like indie movie. Like, oh, this is how we'll handle a large earthquake, is by just having people talk about the large earthquake that just happened and not by actually showing like Roland Emmerich style destruction. Right.
I mean, I think the point is it's not actually a very large earthquake.
I mean, it seemed like people pulled over in their cars and were trying to check to make sure other people were okay. So there's definitely a sense that it's supposed to be bigger than it visually looks on camera. But I just kind of like that whole thing was weird, and her character's behaving weird, and I don't like any of that. But I there's still something in this film that moved me, and then there's so much weird stuff that made me want to bail on it. And I think that ultimately, if you like, the 1,000-foot view of this film is that it's saying something very, very compelling, and there's an interesting journey that a character is starting to go on by the end of the film, and that is beautiful. All the other weirdness, I don't understand. Like, there's multiple characters that are doing weird voices. Maybe one of those actors actually has that voice. I feel like he doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think he does.
And there's lots of weird situations about the way the life that they live is. There's certain things that work for visual gags, but I don't know how you move an object that large inside of a location that small. There's just so many things that this film is doing that I don't appreciate, while at the same time slowly revealing an actual compelling, beautiful narrative that made me feel something in opposition to the annoyance that I had consuming the rest of it.
Yeah. And I do think, like you said, maybe the quirkiness is meant to put you off kilter, so you'll be ready to be wrecked by the soulful moments. And I do think that is a good description of what, like, Miranda July is trying to do with this movie, is like get you in the, you know, what Wes Anderson comparisons are probably obvious, but they're definitely there. Like, people are behaving very particularly, and you kind of get sucked into their world, and then all of a sudden when a raw emotional moment happens, it feels like amplified by 100x because you have been in this like very niche way of viewing the world for so long. But like I do think even just the quirkiness had things that I like. I think the visuals of the bubble factory are very amusing. I like that a lot. That feels like it'd be ripped like straight out of a novel or something. I liked the visual. When I say the big one was what I liked, it's really the aftermath. There's a moment of coming out into sudden light, and the way that changes the tone of the movie and the tone of characters that moved me quite a bit. I actually liked that a lot. I thought a lot of the quirky lines were funny on their own. Like, there's a conversation about what it means when someone like gives you a gift made out of wood. There's like the whole massage scene I found very funny. There's a scene involving dancing that I thought was pretty amusing. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here that I thought was very charming in a defiant, like, we are going to be very, very weird for weird's sake. And basically, as a viewer, you can either decide to calibrate to that weirdness and say, okay, this is life for that person. Let me get in that headspace, and then maybe I can be knocked over by something else. Or you'll look at it and be like, oh, okay, this is another movie trying to do like cutesy, weird oddities, because that's the easier way to make like a heightened statement, is to make people act all weird. I got a little bit of column A and a little column B in this movie. Like, I think it built, the way it built in the soulful aspects was very, I felt that you need the offset of strangeness to make the soulfulness work the way it does, because it is a lot about like not just anxiety, but like not fitting in. And part of that is like trying to build up how good it would feel for you to have a normal, happy family, how good it would feel for you to be loved by someone and to have someone make you pancakes, or to like appreciate the world as a thing to share rather than a thing to steal from. And none of those would be revelations if you were just you, right? Like, they have to be revelations because you've been watching what it looks like from another vantage point for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think it is all to a point, but it's still, Miranda July isn't totally on my wavelength. So I think that's my main takeaway.
Yeah, definitely agree there.
Yeah.
At least there wasn't, I mean, technically there was interpretive dance, but I was going to say, at least there's no interpretive dance in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think one could argue your favorite scene in this movie was basically an interpretive dance. Like, it was different people acting out how it would feel like to be a family. Yeah. And the act of acting becomes like more powerful than the real thing.
Yeah. Agreed. Also, just the whole premise of that scene of like what is happening with the owner of the house.
Yeah.
It's just so fucking weird.
Yeah. That is one where I can imagine it being a short story very easily, of like something of the family coming to the house and this is what happens and this is how it escalates, and then it would end in, I can feel the kind of like little literary, the trick of like surprising you with emotion that like you wouldn't have expected in the setup to the story.
Yeah. But also given the mission that they're on at that time, that it's a whole new arc that could open up from like, I was like, is this what the movie's gonna fucking be? This is this is wild. But yeah. Anyways, should we get to verdict, Stephen?
Yep.
All right, if you're going to give us a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm still giving recommend with caveat, only because when I think the movie clicks about halfway through, it started to work on me very well, and I enjoy what the movie is doing. All the pieces started to kind of come into place. I am not the biggest fan of Miranda July's style, at least not in movies, and I think this did annoy me in parts. Like it felt like it was trying too hard to be just odd for the sake of being an odd indie movie. It didn't have anything as iconic as pooping back and forth forever, so try again. But yeah, I did think it was pretty good. Like I think it's almost like everyone in this movie said, okay, can we take unsellable characters and sell you on them? And I feel like they deliver, and that is like an interesting exercise to accomplish. And I don't think it's as abrasive as a lot of the movies I make you watch. So I'll give it that too.
It was definitely more watchable than Shirley was for me. But yeah, I'm going to give it a wait for rental. It's funny. In our review of the Trial of the Chicago 7, I was like, that movie was incredibly entertaining to watch, and it was an amazing experience watching it, and I don't know what the substance is of the film by the end. This film is the opposite of that. This film is not incredibly amazing to watch and not entertaining the whole way through, but there's obvious substance that comes in if you put in the time to get that back out. Maybe a lesson that Cooper Raiff learns in Shithouse.
Yeah.
And I think that for that, there is something to pull out of it, and there is moving things happening for the characters over the course of this film. And I think that there is something that lasts there. But I think it's a lot of, and also, if this was a weekend where this is the one thing I watched, I might feel a little bit differently than this is one of 6 films that I watched, 5 of which we are doing reviews for.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I can think about, the elevator pitch for this film is actually a very sweet, touching story. The reality of what you ask me to participate in is wildly different from that, and I see less benefit in the entire endeavor when I have to do that much work. Oh, that sounded way worse than I meant it to.
I think despite all that, it's a fairly charming movie. even if it's strange, I don't think it's like hard to watch in any real way.
Yeah, it's hard for somebody who likes like one solid through line of characters behaving in ways that make sense.
Yeah.
But anyway,
this might be surprising, but I think this is her most palatable movie so far. So it's probably a good entryway into her style.
All right, interesting. But yeah, that's it for now. We are done with our review of Kajillionaire. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at twitter.com/SDaveMiller or SDaveMiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at TheSpoilerWarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Kajillionaire, so hopefully you're enjoying that. And that's it. We are done with the reviews for right now, but we will also in the future have reviews for you of the next two Blumhouse films.
Nocturne and Evil Eye.
Yeah, as we continue trekking on through that house of Blums.
Yep.
All right, bye.
Bye.